The single biggest reason people quit raising animals for money is not the animals. It is the question that comes right after, the one every comment section throws at these videos. Okay, but where do I actually sell them? You can breed the cutest, hardiest, most profitable creature on earth, and if you have no buyer, you have an expensive hobby. So today, I am answering that head on. Every single animal on this list is one your local pet store, fish store, bait shop, or reptile shop already buys. Every week from someone. Right now, they are buying it from a distributor 2 states away. That someone could be you. Here is the honest part I am putting first, because the number in the title is a stacked aggregate. Around $3,500 a month is what these 6 can pay together, all running at once, built out after months of work, with real standing store accounts. It is not what one bin of crickets pays you next month. Anyone who tells you a single colony prints $3,500 by Friday is lying, and the comments always catch them. The early months, you net almost nothing while the colonies build and you earn the store's trust. Your buyers here are unglamorous and dependable. Independent pet shops, local fish stores, reptile shops, and bait shops, the recurring kind. We count down from 6 to 1, ascending value and demand, ending on the one animal a store will pay you the most for every week. And before any math, one rule repeated all the way down. Get a resale or sales tax certificate, check your state's invertebrate and reptile rules, and confirm the shop will actually commit before you scale. Number 6. Red Wigglers and European Nightcrawlers. The composting and bait worm, Eisenia fetida, and the bigger Eisenia hortensis, raised in stacked bins on kitchen scraps and cardboard. Almost nobody sells them to stores, for one honest reason. It feels too humble to bother. But bait shops and many pet stores restock live worms constantly, because anglers and reptile keepers burn through them, and a local supplier who shows up reliable beats a shipped box every time. Here is the real math. Startup is the cheapest on this whole list, $60 to $150. A stacked bin or a cheap flow-through, bedding, and a starter pound of worms, which runs you $20 to $40 wholesale. And worms double their population roughly every 2 to 3 months. Ongoing is almost nothing, $5 to $15 a month, because they eat your food scraps, coffee grounds, and shredded cardboard for free. The honest monthly net for a solo beginner is $20 to $60, and that is the truth of it. This is pocket money that funds the rest of the list. On price, a pound of Red Wigglers retails around $30 to $35 shipped. But to a shop, you sell wholesale, so think $15 to $20 a pound. Or you pre-cup them into bait portions the store resells. Nightcrawlers move better as bait, sold by the dozen or the cup. And the second product is the real story. Worm castings, the compost, which sells for $1 to $3 a pound wholesale and up to $5 at a farmer's market. Your 2 best buyers, independent bait and tackle shops, which buy live worms by the cup on a weekly standing order through fishing season, and local garden centers plus nurseries for the castings, which take it bagged. Now the legal landmine. Worms themselves are about as unregulated as animals get. No federal permit to raise or sell common composting worms. But 2 real traps. 1, the moment you sell to a store for resale, you need a state resale or sales tax certificate, and the store will ask for it before they open an account. 2, never sell or release nightcrawlers across certain state and Great Lakes regional lines, because invasive earthworm rules are real in parts of the upper Midwest and Canada. Correct the hype out loud. Worms double endlessly, so one bin becomes $1,000 a month. Reality? They do multiply, but castings are heavy, low value per pound, and slow to harvest, and 8 sales are seasonal. This is a reliable $20 to $60 foot in the door with stores, not a salary. Number 5. Feeder crickets. Acheta domesticus and the calmer banded cricket raised in tote bins on cricket feed and a water gel. The store shelf staple every reptile owner buys, and the one shops run out of most, because crickets are fragile, they die in transit, and a bad shipment leaves the cooler empty on a Saturday. A local breeder who delivers live, gut-loaded crickets weekly solves a problem the store actually feels. Real math. Startup is $100 to $250. A few stackable bins, egg crate flats, heat to hold them in the 70s to mid-80s, a starter colony of 1,000+ adults at maybe $20 to $40, and lay boxes. Ongoing is $15 to $40 a month, mostly feed, water gel, and a little electricity for heat. The honest monthly net for a solo beginner is the brutal truth on crickets. $20 to $70 per bin, and you need real volume to matter. Pet store wholesale on feeder crickets is only about $10 to $14 per thousand, and after feed and the die-off, that nets roughly $3 to $8 per bin a month at wholesale. Sell direct to keeper instead at $18 to $25 a thousand, and a bin nets $12 to $25. So crickets are a 50-bin game to make real money, but they are your fastest way to a recurring store invoice. On price, hold the line. Wholesale, $10 to $14 a thousand to shops, $18 to $25 direct. Your two buyers, independent reptile and pet shops on a weekly standing order, the whole point of this video, and direct to hobbyist through local reptile groups and shows, where the margin is far better. Now, the legal landmine. Crickets need no federal permit, but Acheta domesticus carries a real disease risk, the cricket paralysis virus that wiped out commercial colonies. So a store will only stay loyal if your crickets arrive alive and healthy, and many shops now prefer banded crickets for exactly that reason. And again, resale certificate before any store account. Correct the hype out loud. Crickets breed by the thousand, so a few bins equal a full-time income. Reality, wholesale pays pennies. Crickets die constantly, and the smell and volume are real work. This is a high-effort, low-margin product whose only superpower is that stores buy it every single week without fail. Number 4. Mealworms. The larvae of the darkling beetle, Tenebrio molitor, grown in stacked drawers of wheat bran, with a slice of carrot for moisture. The set-it-and-forget-it feeder, because unlike crickets, they do not jump, smell, or die in a panic. Stores buy them year-round for two separate aisles, the reptile feeder shelf and the wild bird and backyard chicken section, which is exactly why a steady local supply is worth real money to a shop. Real math. Startup is $80 to $200. A set of stacking drawers or shoe bins, a bag of wheat bran, and a starter culture of 1,000+ mealworms for $10 to $25, which you let pupate into beetles to start the self-renewing cycle. Ongoing is the lowest of any insect here, $10 to $25 a month, mostly bran and a few vegetables. The honest monthly net for a solo beginner is $30 to $90 from a modest shelf, climbing as you stack drawers because the labor per worm is genuinely low. On price, pet stores retail mealworms at roughly 8 cents each, and bulk online sellers move 1,000 for around $20, so 2 cents apiece. That spread is your room. You sell to a shop wholesale at maybe 3 to 5 cents each, or pre-cupped, and you still beat their distributor on freshness. The bird and chicken market is the quiet bonus. Dried and live mealworms for backyard hens and wild bird feeders are a growing aisle. Your two buyers, Independent pet and reptile shops on a recurring feeder order, and farm and garden or feed stores plus wild bird shops which take mealworms for the poultry and songbird crowd. Now the legal landmine. Mealworms need no permit to raise or sell as feeders, but the moment you market them as food for humans or as animal feed with claims, you cross into FDA and state feed labeling territory. So sell them plainly as live feeder insects and stay clear of health claims. Resale certificate before the store account every time. Correct the hype out loud. Mealworms run themselves, so a shelf of bins is passive thousands a month. Reality? They are genuinely low labor, but they are slow. A generation takes months, and at 2 to 5 cents a worm, you need serious drawer count to clear real money. This is the most beginner-proof feeder on the list, and a dependable $30 to $90 shelf. Number 3. Number 3. Dubia Roaches. Blaptica dubia, a quiet, non-climbing, non-flying tropical roach raised in warm bins, and the feeder reptile keepers and stores constantly run short on. They do not infest a home, they cannot scale glass, and they out-nutrition crickets, which is why demand outruns supply, and why a store that can get a steady local dubia supply will take everything you bring. Real math. Startup is $150 to $300, opaque bins, egg crate flats, a heat source to hold them around the high 80s to low 90s, and a breeding colony, which is the real cost, because a starter colony of a few hundred mixed adults runs $60 to $150 and takes time to ramp. Ongoing is $15 to $40 a month, chow, fresh vegetables, and steady heat, which is non-negotiable. They stall when cold. The honest monthly net for a solo beginner is the slow burn truth, near zero for the first 4 to 6 months while the colony builds, then $50 to $150 a month once it is producing, and more as it compounds. Dubia are not fast. That is the catch nobody mentions. On price, 1,000 mixed dubia retail around $38 online, so under 4 cents each, and pet store wholesale sits below that. You sell to a shop at maybe 2 to 3 cents each in bulk, or pre-cupped by size, which stores love because dubia ship and store better than crickets and barely die. Your two buyers: independent reptile shops desperate for a reliable feeder that does not arrive dead, and the direct reptile keeper market through local groups and shows, where dubia command better per-unit prices. Now the legal landmine, and this one is sharp. Blaptica dubia is illegal to possess in some places specifically because of invasion risk, most notably Florida, which restricts non-native roaches, so a Florida viewer must check FDIACS rules before keeping or selling a single one. Everywhere else, no federal permit, but never ship them into a state that bans them, and resale certificate before the store account. Correct the hype out loud. Stores beg for dubia, so a few bins is instant $4,000 a month money. Reality? Demand is genuinely real, but dubia breed slowly, need constant heat, and take half a year to produce, so the income is real but delayed. This is the feeder with the best supply gap on the list, just not a fast one. Number 2. Number 2. Fancy and feeder guppies. Posilia reticulata, the live bearer that drops 20 to 60 fully formed fry every 4 weeks with no eggs to hatch. Raised in simple, bare-bottom tanks. Local fish stores restock guppies constantly, both cheap feeders and the bright fancy strains, because they sell fast and they die in shipping. So a local breeder who walks in with healthy, acclimated fish is solving the store's restock and mortality problem at once. Real math. Startup is $120 to $250 for a couple of 10 to 20 tanks. Tanks $25 to $50 each. sponge filters and an air pump 20 to 30, a heater per tank, light and plants, plus starter trios of a decent strain for 20 to 40, fancy lines higher. Ongoing is 15 to 40 a month, food, water conditioner, and electricity for heaters and pumps. The honest monthly net for a solo beginner in year 1 is $20 to $80, and here is why. Fry take about 3 months to reach saleable size, so the first month's net $0, and a store pays wholesale, not retail. On price, this is the gap that matters. A fish store pays a home breeder only about 25 cents to $1 per fish, sometimes in store credit, while the same store resells them at $3 to $4. Plain feeder guppies are near the bottom of that. Bright, true breeding fancy strains the top. So volume and strain quality are everything. Your two buyers, independent local fish stores on a recurring restock, which is the whole point here, and direct hobbyist sales through aquarium clubs, swaps, and online, where you get full price instead of wholesale. Now the legal landmine. Guppies need no federal permit and are legal to keep and breed across nearly all states. But a handful of warm states, Hawaii and parts of Florida, Texas, and California, restrict release and sometimes resale of live aquatics. So confirm your state's aquatic livestock and home resale rules. Many stores can only buy from sellers with a resale certificate, and Florida specifically bars stores from buying livestock from unlicensed breeders. Correct the hype. Out loud. Guppies breed monthly, so a few fish become thousands fast. Reality? They do breed constantly, but most strains do not breed true. Stores pay $0.25 to $1 a fish, and fry take months to size up. The money is in true breeding fancy strains sold partly direct, not feeders at wholesale. Number 1. Leopard Geckos. Eublepharis macularis. The hardy, beginner-friendly, captive-bred desert gecko, raised in simple racks and bred for color and pattern morphs. This is the one a pet store or reptile shop will pay you the most for, per animal, on a recurring basis. Because captive-bred geckos sell steadily. They are the gateway reptile every new keeper buys. And a local breeder producing clean, healthy, well-started babies is exactly who a shop wants to source from, instead of a wholesale chain. The one I would build this whole list toward. Here is the real math, and this is the strongest of the 6. Startup is the highest here, $250 to $600 to start small. A breeding rack or a few tubs, heat tape with a thermostat, and a starter breeding group, a proven male and 2 to 3 females, which for standard or basic morph stock runs roughly $100 to $300, far more for designer genetics. Ongoing is $20 to $50 a month per small group. Feeder insects, which is where the rest of this list literally feeds itself, calcium, and electricity for heat. The honest monthly net for a solo beginner is the slowest ramp on the list and the highest ceiling. Year 1, you likely net near 0 because females need to reach size, the breeding season runs only part of the year, and eggs take weeks to incubate. Once producing, a small group yields dozens of hatchlings a season, and the realistic net settles around $100 to $300 a month averaged across the year for a beginner, scaling with morphs. On price, this is why it is number 1. A pet shop buys a standard captive-bred leopard gecko from a local breeder at roughly $20 to $40 each and resells at $35 to $75, while basic morphs sell breeder to keeper at $50 to $100 and designer morphs run into the hundreds and beyond. Even at the wholesale to store end, $20 to $40 per animal dwarfs every feeder on this list per unit. Your two buyers, independent reptile and pet shops that buy local captive-bred babies on a standing basis, and the direct hobbyist market through reptile expos and online morph marketplaces, where morphs fetch full retail. Now the legal landmine, and it is the most serious here. Leopard geckos are vertebrates, so the USDA Animal Welfare Act matters. If you keep more than a small number of breeding females and sell sight unseen, you can cross into needing a USDA breeder license, while small face-to-face breeders raising offspring on their own premises are typically exempt, so know exactly where that line is in your operation. Add state and local exotic pet rules, a resale certificate for store sales, and humane care standards a shop will inspect. Correct the hype out loud. Gecko morphs sell for hundreds, so one breeding rack is instant five-figure money. Reality, the per-animal price is genuinely the best on this list, but geckos breed seasonally, mature slowly, carry real licensing and care obligations, and designer prices require expensive, proven genetics. This is the highest value recurring store buyer here and the slowest to pay off. So how do these 6 stack into one roughly $3,500 aggregate? The trick is that the bottom of this list feeds the top. Your worms, crickets, mealworms, and dubia are not just income, they are the feed bill for your guppies and geckos, so each stream cuts the cost of the next. Build in this order. Start with mealworms and crickets, the fastest store accounts, and your future feed supply. Add red wigglers for cheap castings income. Bring in guppies once you have tank space. Build the dubia colony in parallel since it is slow, and aim everything at leopard geckos as the high-value recurring sale. The feeders pay the bills and feed the reptiles, while the geckos build into the real money. And 6 break-even hobbies become one stacked income after months, not next week. A free starter guide in the description lays out the build order, the wholesale price floors, and the legal checklist per animal. That ranking is my honest read, ascending value and demand, ending on the leopard gecko a store will pay you the most for every week. But remember the promise I made at the top. The $3,500 is the stacked aggregate of all 6 running together after months of work with real standing store accounts, not what one bin pays you next month. The honest beginner reality is $20 to $90 a month per feeder and a slow climb on the geckos, growing into real recurring income only when you stack them and earn the store's trust. The early months, you net almost nothing, and that is normal, not failure. This whole video exists to answer the one question that stops people cold. Where do I sell it? And the answer is the shop down the road that is already buying this from someone else. And the refrain that runs this entire list: before you sell a single animal, check 3 things. Your resale or sales tax certificate, because no real store opens an account without it. And Florida and others bar buying livestock from unlicensed breeders. Your state and federal animal rules, because Dubia roaches are restricted in Florida, invasive worm lines exist in the upper Midwest, aquatic release rules bite in warm states, and the USDA Animal Welfare Act can require a breeder license once you scale geckos. And the store commitment itself, an actual standing order in writing, because a verbal maybe is not a buyer. If a single number on this list surprised you, or your local shop pays differently, tell me in the comments, because the breeders walking into these stores every week keep me honest. If the real math helped, the modest net numbers and the legal landmines nobody else says out loud, subscribe, because that honesty is the whole channel. Next video, I take the leopard gecko, the number 1 here, and go deep. The real first-year breeding build, the honest morph economics, and the licensing mistakes that shut beginners down before they sell their first hatch.